welcome back. Today we're talking about adding and subtracting radicals, so let's go ahead and take a look at our steps to follow. So here are the steps we're going to follow when solving, adding, and subtracting radicals. One, we're going to simplify everything we can first. Then, radicands are very similar to variables, so we're going to only add and subtract with like terms. And then we're going to add and subtract our coefficients only. So now let's take a look at an example of this with example A. So here we are at example A, and first we're going to check, is there anything that we can simplify? Radical 5, those are broken down as much as we can, so there's nothing to do there. They are similar, they are like terms because we've got both radical 5s, and then we've got 2 plus 3. So we're going to add our 2 and 3, so 2 plus 3 is 5, and then our radical 5 and radical 5 are just going to stay radical 5. We are only combining like terms. We are not adding our radicals together, so it's not going to become 5 and 5 is radical 10. We're not multiplying, so we're not getting 5 times 5 is radical 25. All right, these are like terms. So we only add our coefficients, so we're only adding 2 plus 3. 2 plus 3 is 5, and the radical stays the same. Now let's take a look at example B. So here in example B, we've got the square root of 18 minus the square root of 2. So this time we've got two radicals and we're going to do subtraction. So step one, we have to determine, are they simplified? Well, radical 2 is simplified, but radical 18 is not. So I first got to simplify radical 18 before I can go any further. So radical 18 can break down to 2 times 9, and then the 9 can be broken down to 3 times 3. So now I need to see, is there anything that I can pull out of this radical? I can pull out these 3's. So I end up with 3 radical 2 as simplification. Then we're going to bring down our minus sign and then bring down our radical 2. So now we can do subtraction because they have like terms. They're both radical 2. So I see 3 radical 2, but no number in front of the radical 2 on the other side. Now, if I see no number in between, at this point, I should know that that's going to be the number 1. So 3 minus 1 is going to give me 2, and then radical 2 and radical 2 stay radical 2 for 2 radical 2 to be my simplified answer. Now let's take a look at example C. Here we are at example C, and I've got this radical 32 plus 2 radical 2. So as far as we can tell right now, these things are not like terms because radical 32 and 32 are not the same. But 32 can be simplified, so we're going to start there. So we've got radical 32 that we need to break down. So 32 can break down to 2 and 16. Yeah, 2 and 16. 16 can then be broken down to 4 and 4. So then we're going to break that down to 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So now we've got to figure out, is there anything that we can pull out? And there is. We've got a set of 2's here and a set of 2's here. So we end up with 2 times 2. This 2 is going to stay on the inside all by itself for the square root of 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and we end up with 4 radical 2. So good news, now we have like terms. So we've got 4 radical 2 plus 2 radical 2. So now we can combine only the coefficients. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Radicals are going to stay the same, 6 radical 2. Now let's take a look at the last example. So here in example D, we've got something we haven't seen before. We have 3 times, inside the parentheses, radical 12 minus 6 radical 3. So the good news is we're going to follow our order of operations just like we always do. So we're going to do the thing inside the parentheses first, then we will multiply our answer by 3. So we first need to determine, can I subtract radical 12 from 6 or take 6 radical 3 from radical 12? Well, I'm going to have to simplify radical 12 first. So I'm going to take my radical 12 over here and we're going to break that down. So that can be broken down to 3 and 4. And then 3 and 4 can be broken down to 2 and 2. 3 is a prime number, so it can't go anywhere. So we're going to end up with these pair of 2's coming on the outside. So we end up with 2 radical 3 minus 6 radical 3. And that's all going to be inside the parentheses where we're going to be multiplying that by 3. So the good news is now the radicals are the same, so we can subtract them. 2 minus 6 is going to give us a negative number there, and that's okay. We can do negative 4 there, so we end up with negative 4 radical 3. Again, the whole thing being multiplied by 3. Now again, we're going to treat radicals like a coefficient, so we're going to just be multiplying 3 to everything inside the parentheses, which is just a coefficient, 3 times negative 4, and we end up with negative 12 radical 3 as our final answer, because 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. That brings us to the end of this problem. It also brings us to the end of this set of notes. If you like this video, and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one.